Championships here in Strasbourg. Here are the standings so far. As you can see, Bulgaria's Ignatova has already competed, and it wasn't quite as good as she had hoped.
Well, Ann, she received a 9.8, but the way the 10s are flowing, a 9.8 probably isn't good enough for a medal. Someone else is going to have to make a serious mistake for her to have a chance for a medal at all.
This is Dilyana Georgieva of Bulgaria. She's 18 years old, and Dilyana comes into this competition with a 9.9.
This event has its own kind of peculiar difficulty. As in all the other events, the gymnast must show some release moves where they toss the ribbon, and this in itself is different in an extraordinary way. There are air currents in these large buildings, and they have to literally learn the way the air currents go and adapt their routine in order to compensate for it. You'll see this as it goes along.
Not only that, Gordon, but they have to create a pattern or a visual picture, and at no time should that ribbon be staying on the floor, sitting on the floor. It's got to be very graceful.
This seems to lend itself more to a dance style, too, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, yes. You know, Gordon, if you were to put any of these ladies on a stage with the Joffrey Ballet, I would think that they would fit right in.
Oh, yeah, really.
We've just seen a beautiful performance by Bulgaria's Dilyana Georgieva. Let's take another look at that.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, acrobatic or tumbling movements are not allowed in this sport. About the only thing you can do is what we'll see in this dismount. It would be a modified cartwheel into a modified forward roll. Not quite tumbling.
And Georgieva receives a perfect 10, putting her in first place. In fact, guaranteeing her a share of a gold medal. Next up is Emilia Rylenkova. She comes into this competition with a 9.75. She needs a 9.9 to move ahead of Ignatova for second place.
And talk about dramatic performances. I suspect we'll see a real biggie here. As I said earlier, Ann, every time they toss the ribbon, they're really rolling the dice.
Just a spellbinding performance to watch that ribbon move so gracefully.
Yeah, keep an eye on the face. They're required to use the entire body, but the Bulgarians in particular really use facial mobility. Lots of expression.
Certainly one of the reasons why they are considered to be the best in the world.
They've got the Soviets really concerned about the '84 Olympic Games in Los Angeles because for the last two World Championships, including this one, they're so dominant that the Soviets, I'm sure, don't know quite where to go.
19-year-old Emilia Rylenkova of Bulgaria. Let's take another look at that absolutely beautiful performance, Gordon.
Well, we'll watch again in slow motion, and while she's constantly keeping the ribbon in action, you're going to see flexibility, mobility, facial expression. You're going to see strength. Rylenkova really has it all.
And she gets that perfect 10 she needed. That puts her in second place with a total of 19.75. Next up, Galina Beloglazova, 16 years old, tells us she's a music student in the Soviet Union. Remember, the scores from the all-around will be added to the final score to determine the winner. Beloglazova comes in with a 9.9. She needs a 10.
Well, Ann, I don't know. You suppose there are going to be any 10s given out in this competition?
I think so.
She is such a beautiful performer. Let's just let it play a bit. It's interesting, in both artistic gymnastics and in rhythmic gymnastics, sometimes the simplest moves bring on the greatest applause from the audience, as in the little spin on the back we just observed. Now when she tosses, watch how it curves in the air. Those are the air currents I spoke of earlier. Oh, that's nice, and
Galina Beloglazova needs a 10. Wave to the crowd. Let's look at that.
well, here we go with Beloglazova again in slow motion. That little spin on the back. I'm sure she would not consider that nearly the most difficult exercise in her routine, but the crowd thought it was and responded appropriately.
And she gets a 10.0, a perfect 10, and ties for the gold medal.
And a most enthusiastic crowd here in Strasbourg has been on hand for the strongest world championship in the history of this young sport.
Here are the final standings in the ribbon competition. This is Ann Simon, along with Gordon Maddox, saying au revoir from Strasbourg, France.
Como os tiene Marta Bobo y ya que tiene el micrófono puesto, vamos a aprovechar un ratito con Marta Bobo. No te vayas, luego te quedas con nosotros aquí para que nos comentes lo que ahora vemos. Dejamos escuchar la música de Lili Ignatova, que parte con 9.80. Y ahora sí el 10 de Ralenkova está claro, ha salido en todos los sitios. Dalia Kutkaite. Consigue un 10. Difícil será que Regina Weber pueda conseguir lo de Anelia Ralenkova. Ha conseguido un 10 y totalizó 19,90 y parten con la misma nota. Zaripova, Kutkaite, Weber y Steikulescu.
Qué bonito, Solín. Qué maravilla. Un dibujo con la tinta perfecta. Qué expresión corporal. que traer, que habían pedido más al equipo español y como he venido más tarde los he traído aquí.
Elles totalisent toutes les deux le maximum de 20 points. 20 points. Les médailles d'or sont remises par Madame Maria Vigova, juge arbitre à cet engin, membre du comité technique de la Fédération internationale de gymnastique. Anelia